So we're going to look at working in teams unit, but learning outcome 5, which is know how to influence others. And it's got 3 criteria. So 5.1 is explain what influencing is. 5.2 is describe the actions and behaviors of people when they attempt to influence others. And then 5.3 is explain the negotiation process. And it's there. So what is influencing? So in a general way, it's just you getting people to change their behaviors, their opinions, their attitudes. You're getting them to accept your point of view in a way that actually feels it meets your needs. So you're not coercing them. You're not trying to convince them. You're just, sort of like directing them, saying, this is what I think. What do you think? So if you've got a good level of influence, naturally people will just end up following you. You might have that in your group of friends where you end up finding that you agree with someone in particular, or if one of your managers comes up and says, right, do you think this is a good idea? And you'll be like, yeah, it is. So you'll get influenced in what they're trying to say to you. So what is influencing? So influencing will actually fall into 3 categories. You got situational influence, and this is where people will actually follow you because they need to follow you because you've got a position of authority, you've got a position of trust. So it's somebody like somebody in politics, in the government, the CEO of a company. It could be a school teacher, a head teacher, or it could be somebody like a police officer or a traffic cop. Now, this situational influence is the most common type of influence because it's actually based on that person's position, on their title, on their authority. It's an influence that has actually been given to them. They've not earned it, but you know you need to follow these things because your teacher is telling you to do your homework, or this traffic warden is telling you you can't park here, or your manager at work is saying you need to make sure that you're doing these 2 tasks before you go onto your break, because you know that you have to do it because of their position of authority. Because you're compelled to do it. It's something that you feel that you have to do. You have to comply because you've got no other choice. Then you've got temporary influence. Now, this happens because of something that you might have done. For example, if you've won a competition, so you won a big dance competition, or you got the tickets to the FIFA World Cup or something. I'm not great on football. And I'll be like, oh, Vicky's got those tickets. I want to try and go with her. So you've got that influence over everyone because you've got something. You've done something temporary. There's been something that's attracted people's attention towards you.
Sometimes I think, sorry.
No, carry on.
Sometimes I think that looks have to do things with it as well.
Yes. It's like when you're in popular person or the most beautiful, or they look really, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
And you do end up flocking towards people or doing exactly, if you've got like say the beautiful couple in school and you're like, oh, they went to the cinema to watch this movie, or they go to these clubs. I want to be like them. I want to do my hair like them. I want to dress like them. Yeah. So you do, that type of influence is there as well.
Yeah.
Now, that is just a temporary influence again. It only lasts for a certain time. It might only last while you're in school. After you're out of school, you're not going to be bothered what that person's doing. It's just there for a certain time being. And if you can't maintain that type of influence, you've got to really work at very high levels to make sure you have a strong influence over a long period of time. Because you've got to do one thing after other. So today you might have won a dance competition. Tomorrow you might have tickets to some club that everyone wants to go to. But what's going to be the next thing? So it doesn't last long. And then you have something called lasting influence. Now, this is when people follow you because of who you are and how you're actually treating them. If you're treating them justly, you're being kind and nice, you're listening to them, and you're known to be quite fair, then they're going to always want to follow you. If they're going to say this person is always leading us in the right direction, you know, this is what we want. This is how we're going to keep on following them. So lasting influence is what every person actually wants. So if it's a salesperson, a manager, a teacher, a speaker, your friend or a mentor, any of these people, plus more, they want lasting influence. They want to be known for who they are and how you treat them. So it goes in that way that treat people like you want to be treated. So you get some sort of influence out there if you're doing it in a good manner. And it gives you a nice character, which is why people will do it on a lasting basis. So that was the 3 different points of influencing. So we talked about what is influencing and how the 3 different points of it are. Are you okay on this part?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we've got 5.2, which is describe the actions and behaviors of people when they attempt to influence each other or others. So while influencing does have a lot of advantages, getting that influence can be a learning curve. It can actually take skill. It takes you time and effort to actually develop that. So to get influence and to be able to be trying to influence others, especially if you've got a job where you're in a position of power or you're a manager or something that you want people to listen to you, your co-workers, you've got to work towards them actually listening to you. So there are some strategies that you can actually use to help you develop the characteristic of influencing. So the first one is to build trust with your co-workers. Now, because influence does happen through trust. When someone trusts you, they're going to be like, right, I'm comfortable following what Victoria is saying over here. I'm going to be happy. Afsha's come up to us. We don't really trust her that much. We're not going to follow her. We're going to follow Vicky instead. So, because trust does work. Now, again, if you're in a position of power or in like a higher position than some of your co-workers, it is quite important that you tell someone to do something and they actually follow it out and they don't ignore you. So the way you do that is just try and build trust with them. Talk to them, lead them down the right direction. Tell them if you don't know something and go and figure it out. Those type of things. Then you've got number 2, which is cultivate reliability through consistency. So if you're inconsistent, for example, if you're saying, oh yeah, I'll get these tasks done for you, and then you don't bother doing them, or if you say, right, yeah, I'll meet you at 10 a.m. in the morning, or we'll have our meeting at 3:15 or something like that, and you don't end up doing it, you're going to ruin your reputation. So consistency is extremely important. So when you're consistent and you say you're going to be somewhere, you make sure you're there. You say you're going to meet someone, you make sure you meet them. You say you're going to do a task, you make sure it's done.
I have such issue about it's ridiculous.
In what regard?
Pardon?
And how do you mean? What type of issues do you mean?
Like when I say something and I have to do it.
So do you get it done?
A lot of times I don't. I go to this place called Versity, like academy, and I was hoping I'll be there, and I'm not there half the time.
But that's something that you can work on, though, as well, because Vicky, you're quite young at the moment. You're in your early, you're 19, 20, aren't you?
I'm 19.
Yeah, so you're quite young at the moment. And to be honest, when I was 18, 19, 20, that was the exact same thing. This consistency, it will develop through time. So sometimes what happens is when you go places and you end up making promises that you're not really sure you can keep, but to make sure you're not letting someone else down, you say, okay, yeah, I'll do that. So just only say yes to things you can do. And if you have said, yeah, I'm going to be there, and if you know that you can't be there every single day, or you can only go once a week, just cut it down and say, I can only come here once a week. And then make sure that you do, whether or not you feel like it, if you said you're going to be there, make sure that you're there. And then, it does help to build it up in a slow but sure way, baby steps. And it will help you.
Yeah, no, I definitely need to work on it, and it'll be fine.
That will come to you as you get more, as you start working more, as you start, going through different stages in life. It will develop, and it's not something that happens automatically. It's something that everybody has to work on.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, this consistency that we're talking about is really vital for when you're trying to build an influencing characteristic within yourself. So if you're not being consistent, sometimes you'll get the air that you're unpredictable, and you won't really know that, oh, I'm not sure if I can trust that person, or I can't really impugn my suggestions on them, like put my ideas on them, and they might not follow through. So that can be an issue with it. But if you're consistently motivated and you've got a set of principles and a set of ideas, and that you're solid and you're reliable, and you know that if I say, right, if Victoria said to me she's going to come in today, she's going to do these 5-6 tasks, I can blindly just leave you to it. I know you've said you're going to do it, so you'll just go and get it done. That's the type of trust that you get on someone that is consistent. Regardless of what position you're in, you could be working in a shop floor, you could be higher management, and it's a skill that a lot of people do need to develop, and it does come with time. Now, a third one is to be assertive, not aggressive. Now, there's a difference between being assertive and aggressive. Being assertive is where you're saying, right, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm comfortable with, and I'm going to do it in that way. So it helps you to get your ideas noticed, you get visibility for yourself. But again, that's you being assertive. You're saying, right, I'm going to do these things. Being aggressive is where you're doing it in a way that you're shouty, or you're, cursing people out, or you're just saying, damn this, I'm not going to do this for you, and throwing things about. So there's a fine line between being assertive and being aggressive. You've got to really watch that. So again, when you're assertive, it will just help you to have your ideas put out there. You'll have a confidence. You'll have like a conviction within your self, and you know that I'm comfortable doing this, and I actually can do this, and this is what this is what my job criteria is, and you're asking me to do something completely different. No, I'm not going to do that. So being assertive can be quite good for yourself. Now, be flexible. Now, this sort of contradicts being assertive slightly. So when you're being flexible, it's very important that you are flexible, so that, you can go and look at different opportunities, or say if you're asked to come in an hour later, or stay a little bit extra, or help out someone else, that you're there and you're like, yeah, okay. Now, this, even though it's slightly conflicting with being assertive, you can't be assertive completely if you're not open to changing your ideas. So sometimes there's things that I'll be very strict in. Like, I know there's a particular way I want to dress culturally, that there's particular items of clothing that I don't wear. So if I went into a workplace which would ask me to come in and bare my legs culturally and personally, that's not something I feel comfortable doing. And if I was asked to do that, I'd be like, no, I've got a very strict policy of what I wear, and I'll wear leggings under the skirt. I'm very happy, and I'll do it that way. So you can be assertive in certain things. But being flexible is also that. So me saying, yeah, I'll wear a skirt, but I'll put a pair of leggings on underneath, that's me being flexible. But if I was saying, no, I'm not even going to put that item of clothing on, I'm not even going to wear that uniform, or that's against me, and so on, that's me not being open to new ideas. Because you've got to, I don't know if that's the best example or not, but that's what I could think of first thing in the morning. But you've got to be there, show a level of flexibility, but also to make sure that you can stay assertive and you can, have your ideas open. Just make sure that you're looking at different ideas, that you're not just stuck in one particular belief or one particular constraint, saying, no, this is what I can do, and it's just black and white, that's it, that's what I think. You've got to be open to all these different things that are in and around you. Did that make sense, Vicky?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. I was just thinking I probably could have used a better example, but no one is coming to my mind.
It was good.
And then you've got to be personal as well. So having personality does go a long way. So when you're trying to build influence, it's important that you've got a personality. Now, if you're just there and you're just sort of like, clear cut and boring, no one's really going to want to come and talk to you. Or if you're isolating yourself or you're trying to show that, oh, I've got this position, I'm the manager of everybody in this building, I'm going to show I've got authority, I'm not even going to try and say hi, I'm going to ignore people or I'm going to alienate them. Yeah, and you probably have seen people like that as well. Like you mentioned the other day, where there was one of your old bosses was like, I'm better than everyone else, they're all beneath me. You instantly you alienate people. You're like, oh, I don't want to approach that person there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've worked with a lot of people, and in a physical way as well. Now I work at home, so it's a different story for me here. But when I used to work physically in like school/office spaces, the best type of managers/head teachers that I've ever seen, anybody in a management position, is one of those that is happy to have you come up to them, that they've got what I call an open door policy, where you can go in and you can go and say, hi, how are you? Even if you've got a really big, issue to come up with, you can just go and ask, oh, how was your day? How was your weekend? Someone that you can be friendly with. Compared to the other type of people that I've worked with where they're quite rigid and they're like, no, don't approach me unless we've got something to say to each other or unless it's to do with work. You don't build relationships like that. And then if that type of person, manager, is going to come up to me and say, right, I've got all these tasks for you, I'll follow what they say because they've got that influence and that authority there because of their position. But it's not something that I'll be, naturally wanting to do compared to someone that comes up to me and says, oh, hi, how are you? We've got really good relationship because we talk to each other, we've got a good personality and all that. And then you're like, oh, yeah, can you do this favor for me or can you do this? And you'll happily do it, won't you?
Yeah.
Then you've got number 6 is you're going to focus on actions rather than an argument. So you're going to try and build influence through your actions rather than through your words. So every leader, even if they've got the best conversation skills or the best background, they can't hope to be influencing their peers or their colleagues if they're just doing speeches and arguments and just talking to them. You've actually got to do it through your actions. It's like when you're in a company and you've got management that have forgotten how this, for example, I'm a manager in a company, you're on the shop floor, and I'll come once in a while and I'll say, right, this isn't clean, you've got to do this, you need to smile more when you see the customers, you need to serve them a lot quicker, why are you chatting with them? I don't know what the daily running is on a work basis, do I, on the shop floor? You do. So if I was to come in and I'm actually physically standing next to you and we're, serving customers together, then I can get more of a hands-on approach. So you can influence people through your actions rather than you just, telling them what to do.
Yeah.
And the last point of this is to listen to others. So when you're trying to influence someone, it's not just you trying to influence someone. It's sometimes a two-way street. It's where you influence someone and someone's influencing you. And remember, influencing isn't just someone telling you what to do and you're blindly following it. You've got your own choice within that as well. So the more people you've got around you who will actually look at your vision, listen to your ideas and actually act upon them or have them in their daily work habits, this is a good thing to have. So if you're listening to your colleagues, to your co-workers, and they're telling you that they've got issues with this, that, or the other, and you're working towards fixing them, then they're going to want to listen to you much better. They're happier to approach you. They're going to respect you. And then they'll know that they actually feel heard as well. They'll be like, yeah, Victoria does actually come in. She's our manager, but she comes in. She listens to what we've got to say, and then she actually works hard to fix it for us. That's why we're going to listen to her. When she tells us to do a task we're not really happy about, we will do it because she's working so hard for us. You've got a respect and a mutual trust within your own team. So that was 5.2 on how we can try and build our influence. Are you okay on here?
Yeah, okay.
Now, on to 5.3, which is explain the negotiation process. So, negotiation, I'm just going to read this little slide because it's the best way to explain it. So, negotiation is a method by which people settle differences. It's a process by which a compromise or agreement is reached while avoiding any arguments or any disputes. So, if there are any disagreements, all the people that are within that disagreement can aim to achieve their best possible outcome, or they can so if me and you had a disagreement, another person could come in, one of our managers, if we work together, and they'd come in and they'd try and sort it out for us if we couldn't physically sort it out ourselves, if we were in a work position. So when this sort of is being negotiated, you've got to make sure you're doing the principles of fairness. So you're being fair, you're looking at a benefit that will suit all parties, and you're trying to, maintain a relationship that you can actually still work together and that you can have good, successful outcomes. So in other words, two people come to you, Vicky, and they say, we've got this problem, she's always doing this or he's always doing that, and they're arguing about each other. You're not going to stand there and you're going to say, yeah, Asha's correct, Debbie's wrong, for example. You're going to actually come to a from which will suit everyone, and it won't feel like you're taking the sides from someone, yeah. So you've got stages of negotiation. So to try and get a good outcome or a desirable outcome, there's a structured approach to negotiation. So you've got preparation, discussion, clarification of goals, negotiating towards win-win outcomes, agreement, and implementation of a course of action. So we're going to go through those. So preparation, so before any negotiation takes place, you actually need to prepare for this meeting. Where is it going to happen? When are you going to do it? What are you going to discuss? How long are you going to spend on this? So this section is just, you've got to look at all of these different factors, look at what situation it is, look at what your own position is, and then work towards that. So in a work example, this will include you knowing what the rules of your organizations are, so what your policies and procedures are. Who are you going to help? What help is going to be there if you feel that things aren't getting done appropriately, or if if both of them are saying no, or a few of them are saying no, we don't agree with this. And you've got to again look at your policies and see, what do I need to do in accordance to them? So you can't just make up rules for someone. You've got to actually see what your business actually offers first, what the rules are against these type of grievances, these type of problems, and then work towards that. So make sure you know your whole background before you even try and sorting somebody else's issue out. So if you go ahead and you offer someone, oh yeah, I'll give you flexible working, that's fine. What if that policy is not in your work policies or work rules? If your company doesn't even accommodate that, then you're putting yourself up for issues as well. Then discussion. So at this stage, the people that have got an issue or have a conflict, they'll each put their side forward one by one, and they'll let you know exactly what the issue is, and then they'll tell you what their own understanding is, or their own versions. So for this, you need to have some key skills for this stage. So you need to question, you need to listen, and then you need to clarify. So ask them what happened, listen to what happened, and then just say, okay, so what you mean is, and then just go over the points and make sure that you've understood. At this point, it's really important that you take notes, because no matter how organized you are, if you're listening to 5, 6 different people telling you different sides of a story, you need to put down and say, this person said this, that person said that. Helps you later on. And then again, this is a mistake that a lot of people make, and even I do. Sometimes you talk too much and you listen too little. So sometimes you'll be there, you're trying to ask someone what happens, but you keep butting in and you keep interrupting them. And then, or you're giving them words and you're feeding them, ideas. It's best to just be quiet, ask them a question, be quiet, and then listen. Number 3 is to clarify the goals. So from that discussion that you've had, look at some goals, look at some interests, look at all of the viewpoints of the people that you've talked to about the disagreement, and then just find out exactly what the root of the problem is, and then go ahead and try and bring out goals from that. So list these factors that you've figured out through your discussions. Put down what the problems are. Is it like a problem that everybody is facing, or is it something common that everyone is coming out on? And then go ahead and work that into your negotiation process. And it'll help you to, when you've identified what these are, it'll help you to try and solve these barriers, as we call it, and to reach a good outcome. Number 4 is negotiate towards a win-win outcome. So this stage is termed win-win, because we need to have everybody feel that they've gained something positive out of the negotiation that they've had. You don't want one person feeling, yeah, I won and I got everything I wanted, and another person saying that was unfair. I went in and my problems haven't even been solved. It was all one-sided towards the other way. Now, a win-win outcome is usually the best result, but sometimes it's not always possible to have this. So even though you have negotiation, even though you figured out what the issues are, sometimes not everybody will be happy. So you need to look at different strategies and see if there's any compromises that can be made, and look for things that are positive, like a positive alternative, something that will work towards making their work experience better or working together better. Something that's better than what their original position was. Number 5 is agreement. So once you've reached an understanding, once you've listened to everyone's problems, you've considered what is going to happen, so you've got to keep an open mind and try and come up with an agreement that everybody can agree on. And then number 6 is to implement a course of action. So once you've agreed on something, you're going to do certain acts, or there's going to be some sort of action that needs to be done. There's certain tasks that need to be carried out. So make sure that you know who's doing what, when they're doing it, and when it's going to be done by. Are you okay so far, Vicky? Because we're going through a lot of things over here.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, okay. Fantastic. So in negotiating in overall, so when you're trying to negotiate for a business, it's important that when you do try to reach a win-win negotiation, you're trying to make sure that everyone's happy with what is going on. You're going to try and make sure that everyone is satisfied with the agreements, and that it's a long-lasting achievement, so that it's not something that will solve a problem for a week and then it'll come back. You've got to try and make sure that it's one of those outcomes that you've come towards that will last a very long time, and it will hopefully reduce any of the same issues in the future. So, you're going to be using a lot of different strategies. You're going to look at everybody's different ideas, and you're just going to go and try and, work towards this to make sure that this is done on a long-term basis. Now, the way to try and make sure that this is done, you can follow the 5. There's something called following 5. and it's a program of negotiation by the Harvard Law School, and it helps you to do this win-win in a good way. So you got a win-win negotiation strategy number 1. So you got to make multiple offers at the same time. So if you have everybody sat down, for example, just think of you and a couple of other people that have an issue sitting down at a table. So you're sitting there and you're giving them one offer. You know, what if they turn it down and they said no? So you're stuck there, aren't you? You're going to be going back, and then you're going to be thinking, oh, right, okay, they said no, what can I do? So you got to make sure you've got multiple different ideas on how to come and sort these problems out. So make sure that you've not just got one idea and say, right, yeah, we'll do this, and then that's it. You can't set it in stone. You've got to do something that everybody will find a value out of, something that everybody can identify towards. Everybody will think, yeah, my needs have been addressed, and I'm happy to do that. So never go with one idea. Make sure you got more than one. Number 2 is win-win negotiation strategy number 2. So include a matching right. So when you're negotiating, let the other side have ideas. Don't just say, I'm the only one that can talk. I'm the only one that can give you offers. Be open to ideas from the other side as well. So if there's a couple of colleagues, maybe they've come to a solution themselves, or maybe they've been thinking, what can sort my problems out? Now, if you come to me with a problem and I give you a solution, and if you have a problem, you've probably already got an idea of what will make that problem better, haven't you? So you've already probably got an idea, this is what I would like. So if I give you a solution and say, Vicky, here you go, this is what I think will fix this for you and the other people that have got this issue, then you can actually say, no, I think this is a better idea, and then you can sort of like we can have a conversation where we're matching things backwards and forwards. Number 3 is to try a contingent agreement. So for negotiations, when parties reach an impasse, so impasse is where nobody can come to a conclusion. They're all like, no, you know, one person will say, yeah, I want to agree with this. Another one will say no, or you can't agree to anything at all. You need to consider other things as well. So in these type of situations, when you're having a contingent agreement, you think of things like if and then. So you make promises, you have them these promises are at reduced risk. So you say that, okay, we've come to an impasse right now. Let's see what we can do for now. You know, give them some incentives, give them, you know, say, if you agree to this, we will be able to you will get this out of it, you know, and you can give them a nice bit of incentives or rewards, as we call it. Or if you say, if you can't come to an agreement, then there's going to be some penalties that, you know, we're going to have to cut your hours back, or you're going to go on record, or you're going to have, you know, there'll be people looking at you and so on. Disciplinary, that's the word I was looking at. We might go on to disciplinary action instead. So it's you pushing someone to actually make a choice, and rather than being, you know, stuck in a rut and saying, no, I'm not going to agree to anything you say to me. So you might propose like specified penalties, like, you know, you're going to, if you put your project in late, you're going to have low rates of pay. If you go over budget, you're going to have a cut on your own pay, you know, or then you can have a contingent agreement. So on this, you can say to the people that have issues, or there's a problem that's going on, or something needs sorting out, you can say, write down exactly what happened. Tell me what your scenario is, and tell me how you expect this to go forward. What is your most ideal way that you'd want this to be sorted out? And then you can work off that, use those scenarios, and try and come to a negotiation and say, right, you wanted this and you wanted this. They actually match each other, so that's what we'll go towards. That's the solution we're going to do, and that will help you to generate a win-win deal. So to simply put it, if you've got a set of people who have got a problem with a particular work project or with each other, and they're both saying, no, I don't agree to what you said, I don't agree with that either, I don't like that solution that you're giving me, get them to write down what their perfect solution is on a piece of paper. Read those and see if they match, and then even if they don't, try and come to something that's better, and then still help you generate that win-win deal. Then you've only got 2 more slides, so we're almost done.
Oh,
then
God.
it's quite full on, isn't it? Yeah. And then you got to negotiate damages up front. So, because we can't figure out what's going to happen in the future. We don't know if these agreements that have been said yes to, if they're actually going to work. So you don't know what's going to happen in the future. So all this is say that if this doesn't work, what are we going to do? So how are we going to work off? So if this is a solution and these things don't work out, set in place already is, are we going to, what sort of positions you're going to be putting in? Is there going to be issues with pay? Is there going to be any monetary awards that is going to be put down? Is there going to be a breach of contract? Are you going to have to change hours or change departments? What sort of things? If you guys can't work this out, this is the solutions that we're going to put into place, because these are our damages that we're already putting in place if you guys can't sort it out with the solution that I've given you or the one that we've come up with together. And then finally, search for post-settlement settlements. So I'm just going to read through this one because it is the best way to explain it. So imagine that you've just reached an agreement. You're quite happy with the deal, but you feel like, or you suspect that you could have got more value out of it. You could have got better things out of it. So according to the conventional wisdom, so your own wisdom, you think that you should quit talking about the agreement and that you should just think, all right, it's okay, I've done it. Me and this other person, we agreed and we're going to move now. But what if the deal spoils? So on this, somebody called Baserman, a businessman called Baserman, advises asking the other party whether he would be willing to take another look at the agreement to see if it can be made better. So if you come out of an agreement and say, example, you and a couple of your colleagues, you didn't have the greatest working environment. You've gone in to speak to the management and you've all come up with an agreement and you feel like, oh, actually, in hindsight, we could have come up with a better deal. So what you would do then is you would actually go and speak to all the other people that agreed on this conclusion that you come up with, and then just say, like, do you think we can actually agree on a better deal? Do you think we can go back and actually find something that is a little bit better? So at that time, you'd explain to these people that they'd be free to reject a revised deal. So if you go back and you decide to try and come up with a better deal, and if they don't like it, you can always say, yeah, you don't have to agree with this. You can always say no. It doesn't mean you're going to say yes to anything. They could say no if they think, no, the original deal was the best. It's not improving anything. We're not happy with this. So this is something called post-settlement settlement. So it's where you can go to new sources and you can divide between you what sort of things you're going to be doing. So what sort of deals you're going to be getting. It can help you to generate a win-win contract if you didn't have one before. So if one of you felt happy and the other didn't, it could help you work towards getting that win-win contract. And again, your success, you can actually hammer out a better deal than your initial deal was. So even try and work it into a better, more reliable position and make it more ideal for you and all the people that you're working with. So after all that was the negotiation process. Do you want to go over any of these points, Vicky?
No, I'm okay, thank you.
Yeah. Brilliant. So let's